Well, I turned it off now, but it seemed like it was working, but then somebody said you're just buffering.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't on then.
Okay.
So, but I'll.
All right. If there's anything wrong, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay. We're back on YouTube. And I'm going to jump back on TikTok and see if we got it. So I saw Paul Rosencrans on before. Hopefully you come back. Let me know. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Pastor Paul's Bible Chat live on YouTube and TikTok. It's the day after Christmas, so I'm badly in need of a shave, but decided most places I go, I wear a mask anyway, so I wasn't going to shave today or yesterday. So I look a little rough, but I'm just going for the mountain man look today. So if you're here with me, let me know where you're joining from. State, you can put your city in there if you want, particularly if you're from California. I'd like to know what city where you are and see where you are, because I'm in Fresno, California. And this is Pastor Paul's Bible Chat. So let me know if you can hear well and tell me where you're joining from. And we're going to talk a little Bible today. We're going to talk about the miracle story of Christmas, but I'm going to tell it from a little different perspective than you've probably heard it before. So as you join, let me know what state you're joining from, your name if you want to, and we'll talk a little Bible. And I think I'll tell you the Christmas story from a little bit different perspective than you've heard it before. These are my Saturday morning Bible chats. And we just kind of wanted to try this. Some people ask, hi, Menifee. My parents actually live in Menifee. So that's good. Thank you, Ashley, that it sounds good. If you're on YouTube, let me know you're with me and that it sounds good. Yo Mom's Couch says, I read that Jesus was actually born in July. Yes, it's probably true that Jesus was not born in December, but was rather born in the spring or summer. So it could be July. I've always heard from all of history, we don't know. And I'll get to more questions, but let me do my little Bible teaching first. Hi, Raquel. Happy holidays to you. So yeah, let us know where you're joining from. If you have a question you want me to deal with, put that on there. Hi, YouTube guys. Let me know where you're joining from on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Nonpartisan Evangelical. I have a podcast called The Nonpartisan Evangelical, and we try to say, hey, this going mindset of evangelicalism isn't exactly where God is. Hi, Virginia. Good to see you. And ask people to think a little bit different way. So I'm going to teach today out of Isaiah and out of the book of Romans. Isaiah is in the Old Testament. Romans is in the New Testament. We can talk about the difference of those two testaments if you'd like, but let's dive in. So you've probably heard this passage at Christmas time before, but I want to give you a little bit different perspective, and I'll cheat myself a little bit by giving you the ending, which is this: Christmas is not a sweet story about a sweet baby who comes and lays in a manger and little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. First off, I believe Jesus as a baby in a manger cried like heck. I think he was probably a little bit miserable at times. Hi from Indiana. Thank you. I'm happy I got my live back too. I'm glad you guys can hear me well. Yes, I got banned from TikTok live last week, but then I appealed and they said, okay, go ahead, keep going live. So I think they misunderstood, or their algorithm, their computer misunderstood what I was doing. Hi, Paul Rosencrans. Good to see you from Orange Cove, California. And let me know if I sound okay and everything's good technically with YouTube. So YouTube guys are with us as well. So Isaiah 9, verse 6 says, for to us a child is born, for to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end, on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. That's Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 and 7. And so what I was saying is the Christmas story actually isn't a sweet little story about a sweet little baby being born. The story of Christmas is an invasion. It's an invasion story. It's a war story. It's heaven coming to earth and saying, we're going to change how things are. It is a story of a rebel coming to earth saying, we're going to bust up the status quo and things aren't going to be the way they are anymore. It's a story of heaven coming and saying, any exclusive religion that keeps with and withholds heaven's grace from people, we're going to do away with. Yeah, it wasn't a sweet story. It was a wartime story. And how do I know it was a wartime story? Well, one thing is when Jesus was born, people tried to wipe him out, particularly King Herod, who, by the way, is not the same King Herod who beheads John later in the New Testament. This was his father, the father of that King Herod. And when he heard the Messiah was born, which he heard from some, I think we could probably safely say some Muslim guys or some forerunners of the Islamic religion, who had read it in the stars. They were astrologists and had seen it in the heavens and in the stars. Isn't it funny? All of these things that we're so scared of as Christians today, astrology and people of other religions, that we have a creche on our piano in our front room, excuse me, that has all of these stories in there, and it has astrologers, it has people from different religions, and it has the little baby with Joseph and Mary as well. By the way, those of you who keep joining, let me know what state you're coming from. I love to see where we're reaching. But we are so afraid as evangelicals of other religions, of other nationalities now. We've become very nationalistic, and we're scared of all of those things. That we're scared of people who look at the stars and interpret it for us. And there they all are on our creche, on our piano on Christmas morning. Hi, South Carolina. Good to see you. Isaiah 6:9 is not a story about a little baby coming and, oh, isn't that sweet? And Mariah Carey can sing Oh Holy Night, and it's wonderful, and I love it. But what Jesus came to do was destroy the cultural and religious system of his day. And I believe that if he came today in the flesh to the United States of America, his goal would be exactly the same. He would say, I'm here because the government, and government doesn't necessarily mean that place in Washington, D.C. He said it's the cultural norms, the mindsets he came to destroy. And what he came to destroy, hi, Asheville, North Carolina, good to see you. What he came to destroy was a religious system that said only people in our religion and only people of our nationality get to have God's favor. Savannah-ish, Georgia. Thanks, Kristen. I guess that means you're a little bit outside Savannah. Yeah, he came to say any religion that excludes people from my grace, makes it difficult to get to God, I'm going to destroy that. And when Jesus was on earth, he's walking with his disciples one day and they say, wow, Jesus, look at this temple we built for our religion. Isn't it amazing? And he said, you know what? Not one stone of that building is going to stand on top of another. And you know what else he didn't say for my intercessor friends out there? He said, he did not say, pray that that doesn't happen. Pray that your religion is preserved. He came as a rebel to overturn culture, a religious and political culture that had become toxic to humanity. Not scared, but cautious. Nothing is above God. Scared of what, I guess would be my question. We'll talk more about that when I take questions in just a little bit. But what Jesus came to do was crush the religious and political system of the day. And what are evangelicals fighting for right now? To preserve the religious and political system of our day. God is not a status quo God, and particularly not a status quo that builds a religion. Jesus didn't come to overturn the religious and political and nationalistic culture of his day so that we could build a new nationalistic and exclusive religion. And I know this is very hard for many of my evangelical friends because they're like, yeah, but you have to pray the sinner's prayer to get to heaven. And they're talking about this eternal place versus heaven versus hell. And I believe when Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven. He's talking about something here. He's talking about a mindset on earth. And Isaiah 9 tells us that he came for the government to rest on his shoulder, and to the increase of that government and of peace, there would be no end. So evangelical thought is off, because what we believed is Jesus came, he made the world better. And then he went away, and the world is supposed to get exceedingly worse and so bad until finally God is going to get fed up and destroy the world and all those bad people, others, not us. That's the religion that God doesn't like, is when we have us, we're in, and we're the in club, and those people are out. Jesus didn't come to build another exclusive religion. Let's get rid of the exclusive religion of the Israelite people and the Hebrews and the Jews, so that we can bring in this new Christian exclusive religion where you can say I'm in and others are out. And people say, yeah, but Paul, but what about, it says you shouldn't do this, 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 and this. I think those are guidance that we have to work through on a daily basis together, but those are not the determiner of our relationship to God. And how do I know this? I'll finish with this, and then you guys can ask me your questions. Love to hear your questions about the Bible, or about religion and politics and where we are. But I'll get to your questions in just a second. Thank you for sending those along. Romans 5 tells us, in fact, the book of Romans and the book of Hebrews to me are the best describers of what happened when Jesus died on the cross and came back to earth. Now, remember, Jesus wasn't just something, he was an embodiment of God. He said, when you've seen me, you've seen the Father. When you see the characteristics of me, you've seen God in heaven. I'm showing you who he is. I'm showing you his heart. So Romans 5 tells us this. It says, and I'm not going to read it because it's a long passage and it's a little bit confusing, so I'm just going to tell you what it says. It says, Adam's act impacted the whole world. So what was Adam's act? We know this concept of original sin in Christianity, that Eve gave Adam the apple and Adam ate it, and that made him rebellious against God. And so forevermore, we in humanity were infected by Adam's act. That's the concept of original sin. Adam sinned, and so from then on, every human being is born into original sin. And there's not a single denomination in evangelical circles, I think, that disagrees with that. But then Romans 5 says this: here's Adam's act. Here's Jesus' act. Jesus did the act of a righteous man. Adam was the act of an unrighteous man. He was a representation of a type of Jesus. Here comes Jesus, the righteous man. And Jesus' act of righteousness destroyed Adam's act. Adam's act was powerful enough to infect the whole world. Jesus' act was more powerful and more worthy of infecting the whole world. But we as Christians would say this: Adam's act was powerful and infects the whole world. And Jesus' act was really powerful and amazing, but only if you're in our religion. Only if you follow the guidelines that we say in our interpretation of the Bible. So Jesus' act wasn't quite as powerful as Adam's, because Adam's can impact the whole world, but Jesus can't. Jesus requires something more. So when he said, it is finished, he was either telling a little bit of a fib or he was a little bit confused, because Romans 5 says that Jesus' act was way more powerful than Adam's and wipes it out. And so now we're all under the influence of the grace of Jesus' act. And so Jesus didn't come to build a new exclusive religion. And if he appeared in the flesh today, as I wrote a book called Joseph Comes to Town, which is my novel, imagining what Jesus would do if he were in America today. And he would say this: I didn't come to reinforce a new status quo. I didn't come to destroy the old status quo, the religious and political status quo, so that you could build a new religious status quo that's exclusive and keeping people out. I came to destroy that too. That's the story of Christmas. A rebel who loves to overturn the status quo of exclusive religion and politics so that the grace of God can reach people is in place. And today I'm asking Christians and non-Christians to think about, what does a non-exclusive religion that connects us with the creator of the universe look like? Because I think he's pointing at the American evangelical religion. And I think this is part of why things are getting so crazy right now, is he's letting us go to the conclusion of that idea that we're the only ones that have it right and everybody else is wrong. And God wants to reward us by taking us out of here and blowing up the rest of these people. And we get to look at them with a jaundiced eye. And I think he's saying today to us, what if my act on the cross and the resurrection was more powerful than Adam's act, and you don't get to judge people by Adam's act anymore? It's a very hard teaching for my evangelical friends, but an amazing teaching to think about Jesus in America on earth today, pointing at that mega church and saying, you know what? Not one stone of that religious system is going to stand on another in the next generation, because it's not my religion. It's never what I came to bring to earth. And that's the story of Christmas. Amen. So if you're with me now, tell me where you're from. I'd love to hear where you are. You guys on YouTube as well. Paul's with me on YouTube there. Good to see you, Paul. And I owe you a call, and we're going to get caught up shortly. Tell me where you're from. And if you have any questions, thoughts, even prayer needs today, my wife and I are going to be on with our TikTok and YouTube live at 10:30. So I hope you'll join us for that. She's an amazing woman, and we talk religion and politics. And so now I'll take your questions, thoughts, and all of those things, and tell me where you're from. Hi, Indiana. Hi, Florida. Hi, Los Angeles. Oregon is with me, by the way, and the questions are coming. So I'm going to try and get it. McAllen, Texas. All right. So first question is, I never understood the government shall be on his shoulders part. Can you explain that? So yeah. Sorry, I'm getting text in while I'm going here and they're distracting me. So it's what I'm saying here, and I hope you got some of it. That I think the government, when we hear government, and some of my evangelical friends will take this and say, see, Jesus came to take over the government, and they believe we're supposed to take over the 7 mountains of culture. And when my wife and I started meeting people who were doing what was called the 7 mountains religious theology of Christianity impacting the 7 spheres of culture, we loved that idea, but we told them, and one of them is very prominent, and those of you in evangelical circles may know who he is. We said, we don't believe that Christianity is supposed to take the 7 mountains of our culture. We're supposed to serve and impact the 7 mountains of our culture, that the 7 mountains being education and art and government and all of these things. We're supposed to serve and influence them. So the government doesn't necessarily mean that entity that's in Washington, D.C. or the state capital of your state. Government means the governing mindset of culture. And this is how God wanted government to be, that we would just agree as a people group what was right and what was wrong and work that out together in relationship. That's why Jesus said there's only 2 commands: love God, love your neighbor as yourself. And so the government resting on Jesus' shoulder is that he would influence the corporate mindset of what's right and wrong in a culture. And it says that government would rest upon his shoulders. That means he would be the major influencer of it. And it says, and to that influence, it's going to just start increasing, and that increase is never going to end. And by the way, it says of his government and of peace, there will be no end. So again, the evangelical belief that the world got better with Jesus in it, then it left, and it's supposed to get increasingly worse until Jesus comes back again and makes it great and glorious because he's blown up all the bad people. That's actually in opposition of the Christmas story, which says that he came to teach us to love one another. I love O Holy Night, and truly he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Now, peace doesn't mean sitting around being meek and mild. He said, be a peacemaker, and peace doesn't mean the absence of conflict. Peace means to have things made right as they were meant to be at creation. So that's what Jesus came to do. How about we start taxing religions? It's nuts that Joel got 4.1 million. I've talked about this quite a bit on some of my lives. And again, let me know where you're coming in from to join us. I personally say, okay, churches don't pay property tax and they don't pay income tax. but they do pay payroll tax, and they do employ a lot of people. And so some have even said, why are they getting PPP checks? Well, what's important in our culture is that people are earning a salary and spending their money at the grocery store and the restaurant and the retailer, so that our economy moves. And so if an entity is employing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, that's important to our economy. So churches get a tax break like any other not-for-profit gets a tax break. Their tax break is no different than any other 501c3 or charitable organization. And nobody is arguing if the Red Cross gets a PPP loan. Now, the churches do abuse it, and I tell them that on a regular basis. And if they keep abusing it, they deserve to lose it. But the idea is they're paying payroll, and like any entity right now with our economy struggling, their income is hurting. So I think if a church can prove that they're using that PPP loan to keep people employed rather than laying people off, that's important to us all in our economy. So yes, they do abuse it, and I totally understand why you're saying that. I got time, but I think they pay payroll tax, and they're important to our economy like any other not-for-profit. So why wouldn't they? I guess so. We say these big statements and they sound right, and then I start to ask, well, why? Why are they right? So anyway, those are some of my thoughts. You can push back on that. For question time, is the apple metaphorical or something else? I do believe the Adam and Eve story is metaphorical. I'm not staunch on that because I can't prove that. That's extra biblical, but here's why. Adam and Eve had a bunch of children, but two we know of were Cain and Abel. And we have the story of Cain killing Abel. And thank you, Paul. Paul says, good point about the payroll tax. I hadn't thought about that. So Cain kills Abel, and then Cain goes away. He leaves his family and goes to these other people. And how were there other people? Where did those other people come from? So I think there were more people than Adam and Eve. Lamar from the East Coast has joined. Hi, East Coast Lamar on YouTube, the Nonpartisan Evangelical channel. So I do think the apple is metaphorical, and it talks about just a sinful nature of humanity that we're all to be pressing against in the sphere of being Jesus followers. Pink on Wednesday says, amen. We have Indiana, we have LA. I like that comment conclusion from San Antonio, Texas. Thanks, San Antonio. Escondido, California. Idaho in the house. I have a friend, says, here's a question. Beatles Girl says, I have a friend who said we should call people out on their sin. Is that true or out of context? So here, I believe that when we're walking in relationship, what did Jesus say are the two commandments? Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. When we're walking with somebody in relationship, we get to question things they do in their life that press against their personal well-being. I would call that sin. So the whole point of Jesus and the New Testament is the code is fulfilled. There was this covenant made between God and humanity, and Jesus came and fulfilled that covenant. It was a contract, in essence. We use the fancy word covenant, but it was a contract between God and humanity that was made in the Old Testament, and Jesus came and fulfilled. He said, it is finished on the cross. That means the contract was completely fulfilled. Tetelestai is what he said, and that's a business term that says contract fulfilled. And on the cross, Jesus shouts, contract fulfilled. And that means that contract is over, and the terms of that contract are no longer pressing against anybody in that contract. So that contract with humanity was over. And so now you can't, and then the New Testament says, okay, the rules are done away with. The book of Hebrews is all about how, hey, having a bunch of rules doesn't work. The book of Romans is all about having a bunch of rules just makes people sin more. So the rules are gone. And now it's all about relationship with God and with man. And so there are times when I can do things in relationship with God, in my relationship as a God follower, when I can do things that are really unhealthy for me or for the relationships around me, that wouldn't be sin by the code of sin, like sometimes watching too much TV. Now, there's no rule in the Bible that says thou shalt not watch too much TV. But if God wants to say to me, like, hey, I want you to be in relationship with your kids and your wife right now, and you're just sitting here zoning between the TV, that is sin. So, but I only do that out of relationship. I would never go stand on the corner of a street and tell somebody, you're gay, you're a sinner, you're this, you're a sinner, you're that, you're a sinner. So I don't think we're allowed to do that. And even more so, what I'm trying to tell evangelicals is if you really read the Bible, this idea that our religion is the only correct one and everybody else is wrong, it's just really not in there. It actually is something Jesus came to not create. He did not come to create the religion of Christianity. I think my friend Lamar from the East Coast is saying some terrible things over here on YouTube. So let me report him. And see if we can get him out of there. Okay. So I hope that answered the question of, I do not believe we're supposed to call people out on their sin as we've known sin, or what evangelicals define sin as, particularly because I think this idea of like, I have to stop people from going to hell is a little bit of a corrupted one. So let's stop telling people they need to go to hell, or they need to stop sinning, or they're going to hell. And let's start telling people the message that Jesus said, which is, I'm going to set you free of the bondage of the old code. And now I'm going to connect you in relationship to the creator of the universe and to all the people around you. And let's see if that doesn't help you walk a better life. Okay. So I think that's a misunderstanding, Beatles girl, of the Bible. I agree with you, but they need to stay away from politics, says Harlow Blue. So the law in America is any 501c3 can advocate for positions of political advocacy. So I do believe when a church leader says you should vote for Trump, that is a violation of the law and a violation of our code. And or if they say you should vote for any particular candidate, I do think that is a violation that should not be done from the pulpit. But churches do get to advocate like any. I think churches should be treated like any other charity. Or we're not really kind of paying attention to our code. So churches can advocate, but it's only a certain percentage of your work that you're allowed to do it. And so I do think politics has corrupted the church big time right now. And that's a big part of my message. So I agree with you from that. I don't think they completely have to stay away from politics. And that's why my ministry is for profit, because I want to be able to say whatever I want to say, and I want to pay taxes because I like roads and I like schools and I like airports and I like libraries and parks and all of the things and public safety and all the things that our taxes take care of. Okay. And Pablo says the same, that the churches need to stay out of politics or pay taxes. And I totally understand why you guys say that. And to some degree, I agree. And I also have my own thoughts on that too. So if you're on YouTube or TikTok, let me know where you're joining from. I'm Pastor Paul. Let me ask you a couple of things. I want you to follow me, and it's not for my ego. Okay, it's a little bit for my ego. My page says I have 25,000 followers, which is amazing. I love you guys. But I actually have like 24,985. I think I'm 15 short of 25,000. And I really want to hit that 25,000 and celebrate. In fact, let me look. So would you follow me? And actually, it's not so much about my ego. It's about the message. And TikTok is looking at how many followers do you have and how many followers are you picking up? And those are the things that determine if I'm going to hit the For You page and see more people see the message of what I'm trying to share. So would you follow me on TikTok? Would you go to YouTube and to my nonpartisan evangelical channel and subscribe? Same thing over there. And so we spend a lot of time working on our YouTube and TikTok channels. So, all right, let's get to more of what you're saying. I tried nicely calling out church board members bringing in politics into the church and got pushed away. Yes, I believe particularly if it's an evangelical church. I think we're pretty apostate right now. I think politics has corrupted our religion, and it needs to stop. But yes, right now, many boards of many churches. I was a board member of a network of churches, and they don't like me very much anymore because I said the politics in our church, our right-wing church, is not of God. Being anti-mask is not of God. Being this pro-Trump is not of God. I'm not saying you can't vote for Trump and be a Christian, but this unwavering fealty that says we will protect him for anything he does, to the massive hypocrisy, the amazing hypocritical stance compared to how we treated Bill Clinton and Barack Obama as presidents. So hypocrisy is the thing that Jesus called out more than anything else in the Bible. So our hypocrisy belies our heart, and the fact that it's taking away our influence in culture and our ability to share the gospel make us apostate. So yeah, if you call out your church for being right-wing, you probably are going to get pushed out. So yeah. So thank you guys who are jumping on and following right now. Let me know where you're joining from. And follow me if you would. Let's see if we can get to, oh my gosh, I'm actually at 24,982. I went backward. I lost 3 followers. So I'm 18 followers away from 25,000. So would you follow and just help get this message out there? Okay, I love that contract language analogy. Yes, that's exactly what the New Testament is trying to tell us, is the Old Testament covenant of follow these rules and God will like you is finished. It is finished, he said on the cross. It is completed. Tetelestai, that contract is full. You don't have to live by that contract anymore. And then we try to take people back to it on a regular basis. So that doesn't count and doesn't work. Why do so many evangelicals still support Trump? I talk about this a lot. You can watch my videos. We're nuts. Can I just leave it at that? No. My wife and I started realizing, mostly in the early 2000s, we're like, hey, this marriage of our religion with Republican politics is off. This is not what God wants us to do. But it was very hard for people to see. And even for us, we're like, well, maybe it's mostly benign. Sorry, I'm trying to do something here on my computer with the Zoom. Because it's telling me there's something wrong here. But we started seeing there's something wrong with this marrying of our religion to a political party. And we started calling that out, but we thought, mostly it seems fairly benign. Okay, I think I'm back on YouTube. I think there was a problem there for a second. I think it's fairly benign. And then we started realizing it wasn't benign, that it actually was taking people away from the church and away from the gospel. And we started speaking out more and more on it. And as we started speaking out more, we started seeing that people got a little bit upset about that. And as we started saying, hey, God's not a Republican, people would leave our church and relationships would end. And we started saying, wow, this is weird. And then, of course, Trump came along. And so to answer your question, I think there's been a mindset over the church. And whenever you stay in a mindset in any group think, if we look at cultish beliefs and all these things, you stay in it long enough and go to a dark place, there starts to become a group agreement that becomes more important than truth. And so if you know that evangelical churches have been in this mindset since the Nixon administration, and maybe even a little bit before that, maybe even 5 decades before that, if you look back to the beginning of rapture theology and premillennialist thinking, it could be that we've been in this mindset for so long, we just can't get out. And now defending the mindset is more important than looking for truth. And so that sets you up to be in a place where you can be massively deceived. And so a con man comes along, a really good manipulator of people. And we've seen this throughout history, and particularly a political figure that looks good and can manipulate those soft buttons of oh, I'm abortion. You can say Merry Christmas. And all the kind of cracky things that are a part of that group mindset. You can get deceived pretty easily. And defending the groupthink becomes more important than truth. And that's where we are. And frankly, the New Testament told us it was going to be that way. Jesus himself said, you get in this mindset. He called it the leaven of the Pharisees. You'll no longer have eyes to see or ears to hear or hearts to understand what's happening in the season anymore. And he said to those Pharisees, you look at the sky and you know the weather, but you don't know the signs of the times. And so we're in that exact same season today. I can say to evangelicals, you can look at the sky and know the weather, but you can't discern what's happening around you. And so it's a mess. Evangelicalism is a mess. And I actually believe, and I'm writing a blog right now about, I think we're entering a post-evangelical world where people will say, remember that evangelicalism, whatever happened to that? And I think we're there. Jason with unofficial, something like that, says sin is anything that separates us from God. I would agree with that. I just don't think we get to define that as the rules like we've used to. So I hope somebody will follow me. My wife says I should just do like a marathon live until I get to 25,000 followers. Hi, Southern Drawl. How's my bud? Good to see you. Beatles Girl says, thank you for clarifying. I felt like it defeats the purpose and does the opposite. That's right. Of telling people they're sinners. It doesn't draw them to God. It actually drives them away. And anything we do that drives people away from relationship with God is sin. All right, I just have a few more minutes. Let me see what else I can get through here. Do you believe that in death we become all-knowing? I honestly have no idea. I really, really have no idea on that. I don't think so. I think we're going to continue to learn and grow. I don't know. I think becoming all boring would be becoming all knowing would be kind of boring. After 1,000 years of being all knowing and there's nothing else to learn, and I just sit knowing everything. I don't know, but honestly, I do not know the answer. Maybe, do you know the answer to that, Cynthia? Let me know. Jason with Benefit says he's here on TikTok. Hi. The church should definitely stay out of politics. If they're not paying taxes, they need to keep, well, I talked quite a bit about that. I'm not going to go into it again. Many of them are self-righteous hypocrites. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. YouTube, I'll look you right in the camera. Yes, they are. YouTube. Yes, they are. TikTok. I think the evangelical church has become extremely hypocritical. And I used to temper that language because I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But yes, evangelicals, I'm sorry, you're hypocrites. You're hypocrites. And I know that's a really harsh word, but to be a hypocrite means that you have one standard for one set of people and a different one for yourself. And we absolutely do. We say homosexuality is this, you can't get into heaven, you can't be in church leadership, you can't be this. And all those other things listed in 1 Corinthians 6 or 1 Timothy 1 or Romans 1, yeah, negotiable. Divorce, we found our way around it. So we're hypocrites. We're treating one group of people one way and ourselves a different way so that we can feel superior to those people. And I know my evangelical, no, we don't feel superior. You do. You really do. If you're saying I'm in and you're out, and God's going to forgive my little foibles and my cheating on my taxes and my not caring about racial inequality and economic inequality, he's going to forgive all that, but he's not going to forgive that for that person. You're a hypocrite. I'm not tempering that language anymore. Please explain why evangelicals support Trump. I think I did that. We got an amen from The Tide is Turning. Thank you. I'm super curious why the evangelicals support Trump. I think I answered that. Thank you. Let me know what state you're coming from. It's Me is from New Mexico there. Losing my religion, says Moon George. Grew up as an evangelical. What happened to the body of the church? Yeah, I think I answered that. We gave ourselves over to political power. And frankly, that's not a unique story in the history of the world. The church has done that on a regular basis, and it's ended badly every single time. It happened in Rome, happened in Nazi Germany, it happened in many, many countries around the world, and it happened certainly in Jesus' day. There's a really interesting passage in John chapter 11 I think it's like verses 43 through 54. You can read there. But we see the heart of the church at the time when Jesus was on earth, and it's the Pharisees, and they say, hey, Jesus is getting a lot of followers, and he raised this guy Lazarus from the dead. So we're going to have to kill Jesus. And you know what? We may have to kill this Lazarus guy too, because he's making us look bad. And then they said this, you know why we have to do it? Because if Jesus keeps doing what he's doing, people are going to believe in him. And this is why I said Jesus and Christmas was a seditious moment. It was a moment of rebellion in the world. They said, if Jesus keeps doing what he's doing, we're going to lose our religion and lose our country to the Romans. And isn't evangelical the same thing today? Aren't we saying the exact same thing? If people really believed Jesus and started acting the way Jesus acted, we would lose our religion and lose our country. We wouldn't be able to say Merry Christmas anymore. And we wouldn't be able to make America great again. We have adopted the Pharisees' mindset on ourselves, even though our guy Jesus looked at them and said really negative things toward them. He came to destroy exclusive religion, and we're trying to rebuild a new one. And that's why he's saying, stop it. Hi from Fresno. I'm in Fresno. Cub TS is from Fresno, California. Good to see you. We got New Mexico in the house. So moon drawers, losing your religion. Don't do it. Don't let people steal a beautiful God from you. As evangelicals, we're often terrible representations of who God really is. So keep pursuing your faith. It doesn't even have to be in a church that's inside walls. Find a community of faith that's going in the same direction you are. I promise they're out there. I'm finding them. I've got 24,987 followers right now who I think many of them are saying your message resonates with us. They're out there. Find them. Don't lose your religion. Don't let human beings steal something so beautiful and important from you. They don't deserve that place in your life. They're bad representations of God. We've got West Virginia in the house. Anita's from Texas. Jason says, a lot of Christians just support GOP and not Trump specifically. Well, Trump has taken over the GOP. So if you say I'm a supporter of the GOP today, that means you are a supporter of Trump, or you're silent to what he's doing. I'm still registered Republican, but there are very few Republicans I know. Most of them are silent on Twitter right now. Very few Republicans I know who are speaking out openly against what Trump is doing to try to overturn our election, his corruption of his pardons right now. So anybody who tells me they support the GOP but don't support Trump, I need to see it. I need to see your social media feed and see where you've been stepping out and saying, Bill Barr, you don't get to be this political of an AG. And Lindsey Graham, you don't get to be this big of a hypocrite. And Mitch McConnell, you don't get to be this dangerous to our country. And when I see that, I'll believe that you're a GOP person not supporting Trump. But this idea of Christians using this out to say, well, I'm just for policy, I'm not for the man. Bullshit. You have to show me something different than that. And right now, some of you are like, oh, a pastor said a bad word. I do that from time to time, mostly for effect. And because, again, to say the old covenant is gone, and this idea that there are words that send us to hell isn't biblical, and I'm demonstrating that to you. Hi from Fresno. Tide is Turning says, I was trying to explain this to my daughter. Thank you for clarifying. God does not equal Republican. No. Let me say this again, long and loud for YouTube and TikTok. God is not a Republican and does not require you to be one. That is one of the most apostate teachings. And I have very good friends who will say that out loud. And it is a lie from the pit of hell. And it's apostate. It's not God. Hey, Pastor Paul, I've been engaging one of your haters. Is this okay? Sure. Are you doing it in direct messages, or are you doing it on my page? So you guys are so great to come defend me sometimes, and I feel so bad because there are some ugly, ugly Christians out there. I don't know what happened. Well, I do. Self-righteousness does this to you. When I'm in the club and you're not, I can treat you however I want. So yes, there are some very dark, angry Christians out there. So yeah, you can engage them and invite them and say, Paul's message is like, are you willing to hear a different opinion? Are you willing to be transformed by the renewal of your mind as we're commanded to do in Romans 12:2? The problem is we become so staunch in our beliefs that we can't hear anything. But yeah, Victoria, Let me know. Send me private messages. Let me know how it's going. I would love to hear about it. Yes, it's hard to realize, but it's true, says the tide is turning. Moondrawer says, I answered the question. Raquel says, because they are usually uneducated. I think maybe you're talking about Trump followers. I want to tell you something, guys. That's not a truth. I know some very smart, very well-educated people. I think we make a mistake if we say Trump followers are stupid. It's a big mistake. We need to understand what's happening here. It's a groupthink mindset. It's not stupidity. It is basically a cult. It is definitely a cult mindset. And so if we're thinking this is only stupid people and this can only happen to stupid people, no, I know very, very smart people. I know very, very kind people who love their families and their communities and think they're doing what God wants them to do. They think they're doing God's best when they're following Trump. That's what's so scary about this. Hi, Washington State. Even the educated are being deceived, says Titus Turner. That's exactly right. I think what is going on is technology exposing everyone. We just weren't aware of what was out there. 1 Timothy 3, is that, David, is that the passage about false teachers and being deceived? Titus Turning says, yes. Jumped in just in time, says, it's just Abby or Abby. Hi, Abby. Hello from Texas. Love the page. Keep sharing the love. Sorry, sometimes it pops forward through tough and real conversations like this. Thank you, Mandolin Journey. Thanks for following me. It's just Abby. Yes. I want to get to 25,000 followers today. Let's see where we are. 24,991. Okay, we're getting close. I've been trying to think of what we'll do. I'm going to do some karaoke Elvis on TikTok if we get to 25,000. So if you want, I can do a halfway decent impersonation of Elvis. So I will do some karaoke Elvis, both live on TikTok and on a TikTok post if we get over that 25,000. Cold chills all over my body, says Abby. Awesome. I love it when the message resonates with people. So much hate is coming into light from this. Can you talk a bit about how God allows evil in our world as a good God? From South Carolina. What God does is allow humanity to be human. So he's not allowing evil to be in the world. Evil comes from human beings doing evil things. Now, can God intervene? I think he can. The question is, why would he not? And that's a really hard one to answer. Sorry, I don't like my hair. It's really a mess. It's a real hard one to answer of why does God not intervene when he can? I think sometimes that takes humans interacting with him. Sorry. I didn't do my hair up this morning very well. So the basic answer to your question is I do not believe God allows evil in the world. He walks with humanity and humanity does evil things. And on some rare supernatural occasions, he'll step in and intervene. But I think the deal that God made with humanity is I'm going to let you be human and you get to make your choices and do what you do. And then his two parts in this are, first, he came and became human and lived on earth and walked among us and experienced the worst humanity had to offer. I think he specifically came back at a time when execution was the most heinous, painful execution that there was possible. And then he says, my death then overwhelms the consequences of all of that. And there will be a time where somebody was asking if we're all knowing at death. I don't know if we're all knowing, but I do believe there is a love and an expression of creation that we will experience at death that will say, oh, that overwhelms the pain of life. I do believe that. If I didn't, some of this would be pretty hopeless. So I do believe there is a point where we'll say, yes. And how do I know? I take that from Hebrews 11 is this passage of all this faith, all these people that have this great faith. And at the end of that chapter, it says, none of these people saw the fulfillment of what they were promised on earth. But then chapter 12 says, but now we have this great cloud of witnesses in heaven. So remember, the chapter breaks weren't there in the original text. We put those in later. So those flow together. These people didn't see the fulfillment of what they wanted to see on earth, but they are a part of a great cloud of witnesses now in heaven that tell us and root us on to say it will be worth it. It will be worth it. And that is ultimately the message of Christmas, is that the amazing aspect of this, that God became man and walked among us, that the Creator became flesh and overcame death, means that there will be a moment at the end of all of this where I don't know if we'll be all knowing, but we will experience something so amazing. We'll say, it was worth it. It was okay. And I think we can calm our spirit with those words. Hi, Georgia. Okay, I got to get through these really quickly. Good morning from Norco. Hey, my brother lives in Canyon Lake, which is right down in your direction, Norco, California. Are you saying there is no heaven since the kingdom of heaven lives inside of us? I think there is a place we go after death, and my theology is still in play of what that looks like. My thing is, I believe much of when the Bible talks about the kingdom of God and the kingdom of heaven, so they didn't say Yahweh, so Matthew would always talk about the kingdom of heaven, and the other Gospels talk about the kingdom of God. I think they were talking about something on earth, a mindset on earth, the government that would rest on Jesus' shoulders, on Emmanuel's shoulders, God with us. And so I think most of what we ascribe to the sweet by and by in some place with golden streets and mansions isn't what the kingdom of heaven is. That's a man-made creation. The kingdom of heaven is, Jesus prayed, let it be on earth as it is in heaven. So I think there is a kingdom of heaven, a mindset, a thought process, a way of dealing with each other and with humanity that is here on earth, and not something we're going to individually in the sweet by and by, but is happening here on earth today. Paganism is superior to all the crap Christian people have fabricated. Okay, Mary, I appreciate you sharing that. I've seen Christianity and the Bible have amazing impact on people's lives. And so and it's my tradition. And so I hope it's okay that I continue to live in that tradition as long as I'm not excluding. But I think anytime we start to say my religion is better than yours, now I think we can say when you act that way out of your religion, that's a problem. But the second we start to say my religion is superior to yours, we're just creating a new exclusivity. And I think that's dangerous for any of us, no matter what our religion is. Did you say evangelicals? I may have, but I don't know that word, but I think it's an interesting word. My pastor is open-minded and caring, but the board is pro-Trump and recklessly took over the church. JB, get out of that church. I don't think the board should ever run a church. I think the senior pastor should, with the board's help and advocacy and accountability. I don't think you should have an all-powerful man or woman leading any church. But I think a board-led church isn't in the Bible. There's no biblical model for that. So I'm just going to be really honest. You probably should leave that church. Ask God. Maybe he would say, stay for now. I am still going to connect with you, sending a message today. I'm also a pastor. What does that say? Matthew Mani Taylor. Okay, look forward to connecting with you. Guys, follow my page if you would. Let's see where we are. And everybody's like, I've heard people say, oh, you're such an egotistical pastor. Probably true. Probably true. 24,992. I made away from 25K. So follow me. Go to my YouTube page. Hi, YouTube guys over there. The Nonpartisan Evangelical. Sign up for my insiders list on my website, npepodcast.com. Victoria says she's engaging on my page, trying to be nice, much like you. Just wanted to make sure you're okay. Absolutely okay, Victoria. But yeah, just don't let yourself get abused is my number one thing, because they will. And I don't want you to feel like you have to defend me. If you want to clarify something I said or something, I don't want you to feel like you have to take the blows for me. But if you're trying to engage in healthy discussion and conversation, that's awesome. And if they're not willing to engage in healthy discussion, then I wouldn't spend a whole lot more of my time doing that. And that's when you see, like, I get kind of mean with people and say, you're a hypocrite, when they're being hypocrites. I think it's okay, because that's how Jesus talked to hypocrites. All right, I got to wrap it up because my wife and I are coming on soon. Hi from Louisville, Kentucky. Hi, Louisville. I live in a Trump Nation 6,000 population town in Virginia, and I'm telling you, it's hurtful, things I've seen. Yeah, they're very hurtful. Because they're allowed to be mean, because they're in an exclusive religious club. An exclusive religion makes you mean, makes your heart hard to other people. Without their words, they're a resounding gong. Without love in their words is a resounding gong. I love that. 1 Corinthians 13. If you don't have love, even if you say the truth of all of heaven, it's just a resounding gong. Trump followers, your words are resounding gongs and clanging cymbals. I really do appreciate your light. I've struggled, just moved back to the US as a missionary. Wow, I love that. The Koine Greek word for sin means misunderstanding, not an evil deed. Thank you for that. That bad humanity created the COVID, bad, evil deed. Okay, I've got to go. Though I've always preferred aid workers that happen to be Exian, a Christian. I was in a religious cult for 40 years. I recognize the cult mentality in politics. Yeah, it's there, isn't it? Anita, me too, says Lynn. How do you feel about Kenneth Copeland? I think that he's let a lot of things corrupt his message. My theology is still in play as to what it looks like. So much respect as to heaven. I think we need to let ourselves say, I don't know the answer. Sometimes if we feel like we have to come to a conclusion and a strong answer, we will create a false theology. And I think it's a lot of what evangelicals do. So I think it's fair to say, my theology is still in play. I kind of think it's this, but it may be something else. The last 4 years have made me question my Christianity. I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody. Don't let bad human representatives of God run you away from God. Okay, guys, so I'm going to have to wrap it up. My website is the Nonpartisan Evangelical website, Nonpartisan Evangelical npepodcast.com. Love for you to go there and sign up for my newsletter. Let's see, I'd love for you to be my follower on TikTok. And by follower, I don't mean sheep. I just mean you hit that follow button. And I'm at 24,993 followers. So I'm 7 away. Paul on YouTube says, thanks, Paul. This was my first listen and I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Paul, and all you YouTube guys. Thank you, TikTok guys. So 10:30 Pacific, which is about 18 minutes from now, my wife joins me on here and we do Paul and Ashley live. She has worked as an elected official in her life, works in the space of economic development in the government and political realm. So we talk religion and politics together and we have some fun. And so we'll be doing that again at 10:30 Pacific. So I hope you'll join us on TikTok, join us on YouTube, and hang out with us in just a bit. So love you all. We'll see you soon. Let me stop